Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise and Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thank you for spending some of your time with us tonight. And as a reminder to all our listeners, besides being on all your favorite podcast platforms, Drink of Wisdom is also on YouTube with each show segment available. Head on over and if you like what you hear, we would appreciate your subscription. What's going on, guys? Good to see you back. Nice Wednesday afternoon. How you doing?
Yep. Good to be back. A lot of stuff to get into. You know what it is. Let's go ahead and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk some sports / politics, baby. You know what it is. Hey, we say what they don't and see what they want. Oh, I said that backwards. We see what they don't and say what they want. There we go. I got to get it together. It's been a long day, but you know what I'm saying? Cody, I'm going to let you do what you do best.
All right, so we're on into it. Episode 25, we're going to discuss the Eagles' supposed tank job, NFL coaches looking for work, and the college football playoff semifinal results. But we're going to go ahead and hold off on the sports world just a minute tonight. We first want to discuss one of the most memorable days in U.S. history. Today is Wednesday, January 6th, and protesters have stormed the Capitol building earlier today where the U.S. Congress was voting to certify the November 3rd election results. The building was evacuated, and at least one person was killed, with destruction all in and around the Senate chamber and other parts of the building. While these events really aren't directly sports related, we did feel it was worth discussing. And let's go ahead and start with you, Drink. Just general thoughts. What did you kind of think and feel as you saw the situation unfold this afternoon?
Well, first I was out doing some running an errand, and I follow a guy on Twitter, verified guy, and he started talking, and he was like, "Oh, here's video of what's going on at the Capitol." And I'm like, all right, this might be some TMZ special, some kind of rules here. So, I'm not gonna take it too serious. Then the same guy, he comes up with another post and then another tweet. And then it's just like follow on action. I'm like, oh, it's people really. So then I turn to Fox News, then I turn to CNN, MSNBC. I just started rotating to just see if all these channels was covering the same thing. Voila. They were. So with all that said, it was an unbelievable sight. First and foremost, here's the deal. Before I jump into this, I try to keep my political views to myself because I feel like it's just two things that you don't really just get, a lot of gag with. That's religion and politics, because you're gonna rub somebody the wrong way when you speak those things out. So I know today we're doing something a little new, something about that, that different flavor, drippy drip, extra sauce. So when I seen that, I had to think to myself, why is it okay for just the average citizen to be able to go into the Capitol while you have, mind you, this is the place where they make the laws that we live by. They make the laws that we're governed by. It's some pretty important people. You had the vice president somewhere. You had Mitch McConnell somewhere. Pelosi somewhere, and the president himself. He was somewhere. We don't know, and we don't need to know. We don't have that need to know privilege. But so you had a group of random people was able to come in. They say they was the Proud Boys, the Magna organization, whoever it was. It's just the fact of that's all the security. I seen more security at a Circle K than I seen today guarding the Capitol. I done walked into the mall and seen more security than I seen today.
Seen better defense in the lines. Come on.
Listen,
it's sports related now. There we go.
No. I done seen better defense from James Harden. This is not gonna cut it. All right. And in all seriousness, I seen that, and I see a guy taking a selfie from the same seat that Vice President Mike Pence was sitting in just hours before he was, and he's taking selfies, and you got guys giving high fives, and I just thought to myself, man, I looked and I said, if I was another country and I seen this, hey, America might be teed up for old attack. I mean, I hate to say it, but we got some stuff going on. Anytime a group of individuals, no matter what skin color is, a group of individuals can just storm the Capitol like that, like it's, I don't know, an all-you-can-eat buffet or something, and nothing comes, like somebody gets shot, It's different videos where people are pointing guns at each other. People walking around having a good old time. Got they Trump flags, they Confederate flags, they Proud Boy flags, they MAGA flags, whatever. And folks, this is the capital. Now, so let's just marinate with that a little bit. This is the capital. Like, we supposed to be the world's finest fighting force, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And where they make the laws, you could just come on in like it's a 7-Eleven. Whatever. All right, cool. Then I have to go back to the president himself. Listen, I'm not saying the president sat down and told these guys to do what they did. Until I hear a video or see him say that, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that he has more respect for that building or for where he works, that he wouldn't tell people to storm in and take it over and have guns on them and have every politician running Mike Pence in the tunnel and all this other stuff, right? I gotta believe he didn't say to do that. However, I feel like a man of the power and of the magnitude that he has, what he could have done was he could have mitigated it to some point. Now, I also got to say this, just because he's the president or just because he's Donald Trump doesn't mean when he opened his mouth, the people was just gonna listen. I'm not saying that either, right? He could have said, don't go in there, don't do nothing. And they say, hey, whatever, boss, you're getting overthrown, we out of here. That could have happened as well. The fact remains this though, he had a chance to say some things that could have made, at least for me, the African-American community, give him the benefit of the doubt. And he didn't do that. He took the opportunity to say the same rhetoric he's been saying for the last 3 months. Oh, we got cheated. Oh, they took it from us. They lied. These great people, they just trying to fight to get their country back. That's how you fight to get your country back? Oh, okay. I guess that's reasonable. And then me and Jay was having this, we was all having this conversation before the show. And I'm under the assumption of, if that group would have been a black group, and I don't care what the name is, call it Black Lives Matter, Black Panthers, Black Streetwalkers, I don't care, Black Light Pole, you call it whatever you want to call it. But if that group would have been black or more of a minority skin tone, that wouldn't have went down like that. And for anybody that tells me, oh, you don't know, I don't. Well, all I know is the last time I seen a Black Lives Matter rally outside of the Capitol, the same spot these cats was at today, it was rubber bullets, it was tear gas, it was, they had the dogs in the backpack, they was ready. And I know I'm teeing this up for you, Jay, but I'm gonna keep it 100 on the cam like I did off the cam. They was ready. So I just don't understand why that didn't happen. And I know you got your theory on why that didn't happen and everything. But this was a slap. I think today, to be brutally honest, this was a slap. Most African Americans like myself seen this as a slap in our face. We really did. Because we watched a lot of our unarmed other African American citizens get killed, shot down, or whatever. Breonna Taylor was in her house, she got shot dead. But you had people in the Capitol walking around like they own that piece. Like they got an office in the green room or in the Oval Office or wherever they was at. That's how they was walking around. Nobody died today though. Nobody died. But if you get called to someone's house, everybody died in that piece. So I just don't understand how you call today a peaceful protest, I guess. That's why no one died.
I hate to cut you off, but that woman that was shot, she actually did die.
Oh, you talking about the one that died, that got shot today?
Yeah.
Well, put her next to Breonna Taylor, I guess. Either way, how do I lost my train of thought? I don't understand how where was the arrest? Where was the aggressiveness? Where was the everything you see when black people are involved? Where was any of that? None of that. Don't tell me, oh, well, they didn't have weapons. Oh, you killing unarmed black men, but they had weapons today. I seen them. They was pointing them at each other. They was pointing them at other people. They had weapons. Where was all that? This is why America, like, this is why we have the divide. For everybody that like to say, well, black people whining, they want everything bent to their favor. We just want to get treated fair. How was today? How someone not die? How someone not get shot? How someone not get incarcerated? I don't understand that. However, a simple routine traffic stop can end a black person's life. But storming the Capitol, no problem. And I mean, they look majority white for the most part. Not saying there wasn't no black people out there, because it probably was. The cameras, you know how they do. They find who they find. So it could have very well been other African Americans out there, Hispanics, whatever. But they look majority white. I don't know. I would just like a good explanation on how could people storm where we make laws, where we have the highest rated politicians in America, our representation, how people can storm that place, have guns, take selfies, wave their Trump flags, wave their Confederate flags, sit in the same seat as Mike Pence was just sitting in hours before, take a selfie, have a good old time, and then walk right out the front door. I don't know. Jay, maybe you might open my eyes, but the floor is yours.
I think the first thing that I'd just like to say up front is I think much like any particular case that you reference, whether it's Breonna Taylor, whether it's George Floyd, I think they all share a similar characteristic in the tragedy that they were, and it's obviously a conversation for another time. But I think there are certain elements of each case that they're just not as simple as perhaps a white police officer shot an unarmed black man or an unarmed black woman, or whatever the upfront bottom line upfront headline may say. And I think in this sense, in this case, on this day, January 6, 2021, the same can be said. I think there's criticism that can go around, far and wide. And, I was, I'm pretty candid with you, before the show, because I think in, the criticism you can lay at the president, for, another 2 weeks at least, Donald Trump. I mean, there's definitely criticism. If you want to come out and say that, he could have been more forceful in, in his statement, before the, the march took place. I think that's a fair criticism. It shouldn't have.
Let me ask you this. All right, before you get into it, I will ask you this question. Do you believe the tone or your body position or just the overall way you say things affect how people receive your information? Do you believe that?
I think it does. I think one thing I would say, and you mentioned how the president has acted, and the rhetoric and probably the tone as well for the past 3 months. I would make the case to you that that's been his tone and rhetoric for the past 4 years, again, the entire length of his presidency. If there's one thing, for better or worse, that you can say about Donald Trump, he's been consistent. I think both of these things can be true that I'm about to say. I think the president and, likely the majority of his supporters believe the election was rigged. There was cheating. There was fraud, irregularities. I believe you can say that, and you can, bring about these lawsuits that, to be fair, they haven't went anywhere. But you can still have that, basic foundational belief. And at the same time, you can also take a very probably responsible position and say, you know what, we've been fighting this good fight for 2 months after the election. We haven't gotten anywhere, and time is running out. Time has actually ran out. The results were certified today, and that's going to be the end of it. And we have to, democracy has to continue, and we have to engage in a peaceful transfer of power. If you want to say that should have been the message, and what you told me before the show was that what was stopping the president of the United States from saying just what you said? That is an absolute fair and valid criticism. And, I think that's something that, for the good of the country, you would definitely have liked to see that, because nothing, some of the events that we've seen, in recent months, um, I don't know in my lifetime if I've ever seen the country more, divided, as it is right now. And that's a very sad, that's an extremely sad state of affairs. The one problem I see, and it ties in with your question, of why the police presence or the security or the overall preparation to this event, which was obviously a pro-Trump coalition. Why was the response so feeble and futile and just in all actuality non-existent? I mean, we over here cracking James Harden jokes, but we know the responses to other events, whether it be Black Lives Matter or what have you. Those events, as you well know, were met with different, more extreme levels of force. I would say, and as much as the Donald Trump is the leader of this country, but as you well know, there are leaders up and down the power structure. Donald Trump is responsible for the country, and much as we'll talk in a later subject. The head coach is responsible for everything that goes on the football team. But we know there's levels to this. We know in the NFL there's offensive and defensive coordinators. We know in the United States there's governors and mayors. This is a perfect example. Much like you look at local cities across the country that had unrest and protests throughout the summer months. You look at Washington D.C. in this event, and you compare and contrast a Black Lives Matter event, and there were many of them that took place in Washington D.C. If my memory serves me correct, and you look at what was happening today. I would remind you, Washington D.C., even though that is where the federal government is, there is still local leadership there, and the mayor there is a Democrat. She is also an African American woman. I am just curious, and I asked, and just as you asked the question, why is the response different? My question is, and I don't know if we know the answer. I don't know. But the question is to me, if you are an African American woman in a position of power, and in my mind, it would seem the response to whatever event it is probably has something to do with you. Why is the response to a Black Lives Matter event so much different to this pro-Trump event that we saw today? In the name of equality, in the name of equal justice under the law, why wouldn't the responses be equal? So
or greater,
or greater.
yeah.
But in the end, I think in the end we're looking for some level of equality. Why wouldn't the responses be equal? And I don't think Donald Trump, I don't think he was in charge of security. I don't think he's in charge of the Capitol Police. I mean, this is still, Washington, D.C. still has its own local government, which is, headed by Muriel Bowser. I mean, where was she? I don't know. Why did she not, take some level of interest in making sure the responses were somewhat uniform and somewhat level of equal? And you had to have known, and I compared it to, each cause, whether it be Black Lives Matter or whether it be this pro-Trump group, the same level of the same sense of urgency, the same, each cause is different to its own group. When an unarmed Black man or unarmed Black woman is a victim of police brutality, we know that gaslights the African American community, and in a greater sense, everyone. The responses. I don't think the responses were just African American folks that were upset at some of the things that took place. I think the country as a whole, in many respects, was shocked at some of the things that we've witnessed. But at the same time, when you look at something as foundational as the integrity of the American elections, and you have, just thousands of sworn affidavits and that, are on record of people, witnessing different election irregularities, and, nothing has come of it. It would seem to me that, that would, to that group, that would be something that we would be of concern to them. And then you have what happened today. I would also say that in as much as, Donald Trump, you can say, did not do his due diligence, and maybe, you know, putting some water on those flames, and toning this thing down a bit. In many democratic cities across the country, whether it's Portland, whether it's New York, whether it's Seattle. The list of cities across the country that were just disasters, for weeks and months in some cases. Where was, and I know he wasn't the president at the time, but he was the leader of the Democratic Party, the nominee. Where was Joe Biden? I mean, Joe Biden didn't do much at all to quell the violence and quell the unrest, and didn't say much of anything. And I guess you can tell me it wasn't his place, but I mean, I would make the case to you that that activity in some ways benefited him. And of course, it's obviously in his best interest now to demand the president of the United States to say, hey, President Trump, you got to come out and you got to make a statement. You got to be forceful. The Capitol is under siege. I think the criticism of President Trump, it's valid in a lot of respects, and he's in as much as I believe some of many of his policies have been good for the American people. Obviously and I think he's made the point on several occasions. You'd like to see some level of professionalism. You'd like to see some level um, of diplomacy and just an attitude and a persona
Right.
that seems presidential. But at the same time, Donald Trump was not a career politician, as many presidents as we've had in the past. And as I say, he's been consistent in this instance right here. It's disappointing in the end. It's very disappointing what we saw in the United States Capitol today. And I'm going to be consistent as I always try to be. I've always said that protest is something that we should do when something, we believe something is unjust. But when we see injustices take place, I don't believe violence is the answer. When we cross that line to where we talk about mostly. I don't think we're having mostly peaceful protests, or maybe they are, but I don't think you can really use the word peaceful. When businesses are being looted, when businesses are on fire, and to be quite frank with you, I mean, I don't think what are we going to talk about with elections now? Because I think the big thing about these elections, because I think the underlying theme is, well, was there fraud? Well, maybe there was some fraud, but I mean, it wasn't enough to, swing overturn the outcome of the election. Oh, I see. So in that case, having some fraud is okay. Well, in that case, I guess since we're okay with mostly peaceful protests, maybe we're also okay with mostly free and fair elections. I would leave you with that.
Any other thoughts, Drink?
No.
All
I
right, cool.
want to keep it kind of short with
Yeah,
this
well, yeah,
prime
I was
time
gonna say
edition.
where our time's pushed up. I got a couple real quick thoughts I'll throw in. We'll move on. Number one, astounding security failure at the Capitol. That is the most unbelievable. I literally don't know what they had. They had like 3 cops and some of those metal barriers and those ropes you see at the movie theater where they snake you in the line. That was it. I mean, I don't understand. And the only thing I could even fathom is that they didn't think this was going to happen. I think some of the protests we saw through the summer, a lot of times those are scheduled ahead of time. They're not just spontaneous. They are like, hey, we're having a rally at this date and this time. The president had his rally scheduled too. So I don't know if maybe they just didn't make the jump of, hey, these guys can be violent too. Like they're people too. Like it's no different. Or they just, I don't understand how you were so taken aback and so unprepared. It's absolutely unacceptable. And I hope every head that had anything to do with that security detail was rolled. I really do. But as far as the protests go, I think that when you look at why people react violently when things happen, when they have a perceived problem. I mean, you see it over the summer, the African American community, especially Black Lives Matter and whatnot. They when you're an African American in the country and you feel like a second class citizen, you feel like the system is treating you unfairly. That at a foundational level, you are different. You are put aside. You are forgotten about. Your problems are not heard. You're going to find a way to make yourself heard in that case. And on the other side of this coin, I think that while again the claims and the election stuff, you can debate exactly how much of it was fraudulent, how much it wasn't. I think that for many years, people on the right have lost the academics, they've lost media, they've lost TV, they've lost social media. Every one of those institutions around them are constantly pushing back on them. The violent, or not the violent, the virulent pushback on Donald Trump. Every time the man breathed or moved or said anything for 4 years, it was front page news. The Russia investigation, you can go on, but in the same token, I think some of these people have just they've had it up, and then when they've also been led to believe that the election was stolen from them. If think about this, if you really thought the election was stolen, let's just say we flipped the script and it was Biden and Trump was about to take office. You felt a guy like Donald Trump stole the election. I mean, there'd be a subsect of people that would not just sit there and take that; they would go after it. And I understand both sides. So I guess that the question then becomes for society, do we accept it? Are we going to accept any sort of violent protest, or is it never acceptable? And the accountability has to come from that side. Because what's going to happen no matter what? One side's going to go, oh, look at those hoodlums burning their cities, da da da. And then now the other side is going, look at those idiot rednecks. They said they love the cops. Now they're beating them up. Like, and they're both right. They're both correct. But the accountability has to come from both sides. Donald Trump has to knock off the rhetoric. Dude, you lost. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. You lost. You got smoked. You got smoked in court. You got smoked again. You got smoked in Georgia. Like, I don't like it either. I mean, but hey, whatever, man. It's what happened. And then on the other side of the coin, we had this protest going on for months and months, and they were burning cities down, and they were looting places that had nothing to do with any structure of power or anything that could a Wendy's and an AutoZone. Like, what do those people do to you? Like, in the both sides or tribes, what do we call it nowadays, need to pull back. And we need to remember that 95% of people on both sides of the coin are good, honest people that we want a lot of the same things. We want the country to succeed. And these smaller extreme subsects get the spotlight, they get the limelight, and it's it's a symptom of the media and a symptom of just how we consume content nowadays, where those fringe groups get all the attention, you know and it sucks, because I wish we could do better. And I hope that going down the road, both sides can have more accountability of their own. Donald Trump is saying, yo, quit storming, knock it off, stop it, whatever. We can cut down and we can get back to something more civil, because this is getting untenable. I mean, like I said, you can't have cosplayers running around in the Senate building and stealing stuff. And it's just, it's gotten ridiculous. So I hope that going down the road, this is like the boiling point, and everything from here it's going to calm down, and we can get back to a more normal future, because it's crazy.